Hello there, and welcome to Olivia's Book Club, the podcast. I'm Olivia Fierro, your host, and we're here in Arizona in the podcast studio, which is nice and air-conditioned, but in Arizona, we're getting into that triple digits, so it is time to start picking up the more escapist fiction, cranking up the AC, and definitely planning a getaway, which means we will have more time to enjoy some delicious books. So stay tuned for Margaret's reading recommendations at the end of this podcast, but right now, we're going to travel in our own minds to the bougie neighborhood of Buckhead, the Beverly Hills of Atlanta, if you will, which is the setting for the book we're talking about today. It is One of Us is Dead, and I'm so excited to talk to my guest, the best-selling novelist of The Perfect Marriage, which, as I understand, has already been optioned for either film or television, so we'll get more on that scoop coming up. But she's also a real media sensation, so Jeneva Rose, thank you so much. Congratulations. The book is out now, and it is so much fun. It's delicious and divine, and it is reading form of entertainment for the person who loved Desperate Housewives or Devious Maids or all of those like really fun television shows.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a great intro. I'm honored.
So set the scene a little bit, if you will, for One of Us is Dead.
So One of Us is Dead. It's about a Southern salon owner who gets entangled in the lives of her elite wealthy clients. And when one of them ends up dead, it's only her and her accumulation of town gossip that can help the police solve the murder. So you don't know who's dead, you don't know who killed them, and you don't know why.
There's so many questions. And along the way, I mean, I love a thriller because I love the concept of trying to always trying to figure it out. But in this book, you get so caught up in the dynamics between these very strong character women who all have a different agenda, all have a little bit of a secret going on. And just every time they're interacting, I mean, it is just incredible drama. So let's walk through the characters a little bit. We've got Olivia, Crystal, Jenny, Shannon. I mean, these are very memorable people in different ways.
Yes, they definitely are. And the book has 5 points of view. And I think how readers are easily able to keep all the characters straight is they all kind of have their own role. So you have Olivia, who's the social climber and will do anything to get power. You have Jenny, the salon owner, who's just trying to keep the peace between these women. You have Shannon, who's the scorned ex-wife. Crystal is the younger new wife that does not fit into the Buckhead lifestyle. And then there's Karen, who's the mother hen and has her issues of her own, so she can't really get involved in this drama, but she gets pulled into it.
So what is your familiarity with Buckhead? Do you have any ties to Atlanta at all?
Well, I was there yesterday, so that's my only tie.
Yay!
Otherwise, I picked Buckhead because I was looking for, a very influential neighborhood that had a lot of wealth and, everyone knows about Beverly Hills and LA and New York City. So I wanted to do something different. And then there was another reason why I picked it, which is more of a spoiler in the book. So I'll leave that out.
Okay. So I was looking at your TikTok, and you've got a huge social media presence, and your life has changed, I imagine, a lot in the last couple of years. But you've been working as a writer professionally for quite some time. So how did you get started initially, and how much have things changed for you since the last book?
Well, I started really trying to write a book in 2016, like seriously taking it seriously. I had tried before, I did not do it. And I wrote that book. It didn't get an agent, but then I wrote The Perfect Marriage. But that took a long time to get it published. And then it blew up on TikTok, and that kind of changed my whole career. I was a social media manager at a Fortune 500 company. And I left that job March of last year to become a full-time author because so much had taken off. And I was like, it's time to make the switch.
Wow.
It's been very different.
So it's not surprising that you had the knowledge and the creativity to harness the power of social media for your own brand and for your own books, because you had already been doing this professionally. And it's really the whole publishing industry has changed so much in the last couple of years because of BookTok and social media. It's incredible.
Yeah. So when I decided, or I went with a very, very small publisher out of the UK for The Perfect Marriage, because it was denied everywhere else. And so I was like, okay, we'll go with a small publisher. I'll take care of the digital marketing because they don't have a marketing budget. And I'm like, I know I can do this. And it launched during COVID, the height of COVID. So everyone had to pivot to online. And the cool thing is like people really resonated with my content on TikTok. I went crazy viral. One video marketing the book got 5 million views. There was some confusion because some people thought it was based on my real life and that my husband was an accused murderer.
I was just reading this article. It's so fantastic. So please backtrack and talk to me about this because that is the funniest thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah, so I started this trend on TikTok where you tell the story as if it was your own, and at the end you put up your book and you're like, actually, that's the plot of my novel. And The Perfect Marriage is about a defense attorney who defends her husband when she's accused or when he's accused of murdering his mistress. And so the video was 27 seconds, but many people stopped watching at 24 seconds and didn't see the book. And I didn't realize until I started getting comments on my other videos that my husband was actually in. And they're like, oh my God, is he out on bail? Are you still with him? And I was like, what? So yeah, we played into it for a while too. And then the Daily Mail wrote an article and pulled our real wedding photos, which I was just like, what? Those are my real wedding photos.
They're like, wow, you're so forgiving. We didn't think that you would really stand by your man after, the mistress and everything, even if he didn't kill her.
Yeah, till death do us part.
One of us is going down some way or the other. That is just, it is, I mean, that is just such a 2020, 21 thing that could never have happened in any other time period, right?
Yes, I completely agree. And what's been great was I went on tour this last week for the launch of One of Us is Dead, and we did 5 cities. I was actually in Arizona, but I took what I learned from social media and doing the TikToks and I brought them to my events. So at every event, I made TikToks with the audience, and which people were like, this is the most fun I've ever had at a book signing. And I was like, that's because this is a comedy show and a performance.
Versus like just waiting and hoping somebody's going to come up to the table like that. Yeah, you've got it figured out. So there's a lot that people can, and I'm sure that I know there are a lot of novelists that are watching what has happened with your career. And you like think about a Colleen Hoover. You're orchestrating this more from your social media savvy professional perspective. There are other books that it sort of just has happened, like Colleen Hoover will say, like, I didn't do this, like the readers did this, and so it's out of control. I mean, it's just there's so many magical scenarios where the good bottom line is it's making more people pick up books.
Absolutely. I'd rather be like Colleen Hoover, where just the readers take care of it and I can just keep writing. But,
later.
Yes, later. It'll get there. It'll snowball.
It definitely will. So this book is just, I mean, it is so much fun. And I think I, in particular, loved that Olivia was just so, oh my gosh, my namesake was just something else and then some. Putting yourself in the minds of these ladies, I imagine that Jenny was the character's voice that you most related to. Or am I off?
Definitely, because no, I'm like, I relate to Olivia. Just kidding.
I wish. Do it.
Yeah, that one came from me. No, Jenny, because she's like driving the story too, and I'm obviously as the author, I'm writing the story, so I definitely related to her more, and she's trying to keep the peace and just doesn't want to get sucked into it, but it's taking place in her salon and her business, and there's no escaping it.
There's a lot of themes that are really interesting, besides the fact that, okay, you're just on this delicious thriller track and all of this drama between these ladies and all of the social status and all the power stuff and all the money and all the decadence and all of the value of how they look and who's the most beautiful or the most sexy or whatever. But there's also like some interesting themes about the dynamics of the power equation between women who are paying for services and then the people who are performing the services. And those lines are often quite blurred and become best friend. People will become best friends with a makeup artist or their hairstylist or, fill in the blank. You're spending a ton of time there. But there's dynamics that make those relationships really pretty complicated. And that's something that Jenny has to deal with as a professional woman who's keeping her own business afloat. And she's got to deal with all of these crazy women and their BS no matter what because they keep the money coming.
Exactly. So that's something that even though she knows things about, each of the women and that is affecting another woman at the salon, she can't really tell them because she's jeopardizing her own business by infuriating another client because she can't keep the secrets. So that was really fun to play with.
Yeah, and that space of where, I mean, people just let loose and they talk, and you forget that people are always listening, right?
Yeah, that's actually how I came up with the story. Was I was chatting with my hairstylist, and she mentioned something I had previously told her, and it was personal, and I didn't remember telling her that. And I was like, "I told you that? I can't believe I told you that." And she had replied, "Yes, you wouldn't believe the things that people say when they're sitting in this chair." And I was like, that was a light bulb. I had never read a thriller set in a salon, and I just thought it was the perfect setting.
Oh my gosh, it absolutely is completely long overdue. Really, so enjoyable. What is happening with your luckily, I assume that your husband is not in prison right now, and
Not yet.
at least not yet. And so, is that I read that that's already been optioned, and possibly we'll be seeing that in some format.
Yes, the film and television rights were optioned, and there's been a lot of amazing developments, but I was sworn to secrecy
Okay.
last week, so I can't say any of them, but it's looking very, very good.
Until you're getting highlights next time, and then it's like all out there.
Yeah, basically right now I'm just keeping secrets, pulling a Jenny.
So, as you now are full time in this, is there as you sit down to write, and I would imagine that you're probably already well into your next book, if not completed with completing your next book.
Yes, actually, the deal was just announced last week. And so Blackstone purchased my next 5 thrillers. So I will have a book
Wow.
out every year for the next 5 years. But the
Woo!
next one is written and it'll come out April of 2023.
Wow, that is amazing. Does that change for you, or do you expect it to change the way that it feels to sit down to write?
I mean, it's definitely going to be a lot more pressure because I have to have a book written every February to publish for the following year.
Mhm.
And I think it'll change in that way. And also just knowing that like this book will for sure be published is probably going to make me have scrutinize it even way more than I would previously. Cause it's like, oh, maybe it'll get published. But now it's like, oh, this is going to be out there. So I think I'll nitpick it a lot more.
Yeah, and
Probably,
you
yeah.
just are you a naturally disciplined person? Are you good with deadlines anyway, or is this something that's going to be a little bit counterintuitive for you?
I'm really good with deadlines. The last time I had a deadline was for a series I wrote under a pen name, and I think I had 6 months to do it, and I wrote the first draft in 26 days because I was so scared
Whoa.
of not hitting the deadline. So hopefully I'm not like that obsessive with it.
Wow. Tell me, can you a little bit about about your job prior to that you were able to step back from as everything in your writing career was blowing up? I know that it seems like a lot of the novelists that I speak to, many have backgrounds in professions that they're able to pull a lot of plot inspiration, or at least character inspiration from. Maybe they've been journalists and they were, researching crimes, or meeting a lot of people who are, newsmakers, or a lot are attorneys who have been working in the legal field and have that kind of background to pull from, and some of the dynamics of, the intensity of being in a practice like that. So, are there former coworkers of yours, or moments from your life before that will be creeping into your books coming up?
I always pull from my experiences or, just everyday interactions. Definitely with like, I worked for Kimberly Clark, which does like Kleenex. They do Kleenex and Huggies and all of that. And I would love to pull social media aspect. And there was a little bit in this book with like some online bullying in One of Us is Dead.
Mhm.
But I would like to have social media kind of be a center of a thriller plot. And I think one day I will do that for one of my future novels. And that's probably what I'll pull from.
Hmm. Tell me a little bit about your writing process. Are you an outliner? Do you know when you're sitting down and you've got all of these characters and all of these great voices? And I just think you must have had such a blast with the dialogue and the thinking and the whatever, because they are rich, not just in money, but rich in just all of it. There's a lot of very memorable moments with these women, but how do you go about it? Are you outlining completely? Did you know exactly how it was going to wrap up, who you were rooting for, or were these characters sort of living, breathing outside you and surprising you?
It's a little bit of both. So I'm a plotter and a pantser, but I won't start writing a book idea. And I think this is just because I come from a marketing background until I can summarize it in a sentence or two, because I love a really strong hook. And I know that's what publishing likes and that's what readers like. You want to hook them right away. So once I have that, I write actually the little marketing paragraph that goes on the back of a cover to help me frame it. And then I'll do character sketches and setting sketches. So it's all detailed there in basically reference sheets as I write that first draft. And then I outline, but bare bones, because I want the story to breathe and I want the characters to breathe. And sometimes they take me in places I didn't expect them to take me. But I usually always know like the twist or the ending. One of Us is Dead was one of them that I actually rewrote the ending twice and changed it. So, and that was just because so many people loved The Perfect Marriage. It sold really well. People were shocked by it. So I didn't want to have a second book not deliver that same, emotional feel to it at the end. So I was really, really scrutinizing it and rewrote it a couple of times until I felt good about it.
That's really interesting to have utilizing your marketing expertise first, because that does, I think when people think about maybe trying to write, and they have a dream and they've got all these ideas swirling around, and they love to read and they would love to try to put something down on paper, it seems almost too daunting. If you're able to really narrow down that concept. I mean, that is a genius way to allow yourself to go back and know that you're going to at least be following a structure and delivering what you're promising. The promise is there.
Yes. And I also, right from the beginning, if someone asks me like, oh, what's your book about? Or my agent asks me, I can like just rattle off 2 sentences. And I feel like a lot of authors are like, I don't know. And that really helps me just doing that in the beginning so I can tell others very easily.
Wow, that's interesting. So do you, where do you like to write? What is your, are we early in the morning, late at night, all over the place? Are we snacking? Is it noisy? Is it absolute silence? Like, who are you as a writer?
I think my best writing starts at 10 a.m. And I don't like to write late in the night, and then I don't like to write too early, but I always tend to write my first drafts in my office, which is where I'm at right now. And then when I have to go through edits, I like to go to coffee shops or bars. And the only reason I do that is because that's always the hardest part, is to working through edits. So then when you're sitting there, it's like you pretend that you're the main character and everyone's watching you and you're writing your little masterpiece. And it makes me work harder and faster.
Nice. You've got a lot of good life hacks here. I think that these can be adopted by people in different professions to just kind of get over the hump of some of the things that make us stuck in general.
Yeah, go to a bar, have a glass of wine, do your work.
That's always the answer anyways, right?
Yes.
So I when I speak to writers, I've just got such a love for books, and I know that anybody who makes a career out of storytelling like this and is able to weave fiction that's just so fun and fantastic like you did, you obviously love to read. So when did you find yourself kind of jumping all into the magic of reading and hooking on to books? And when did that lead you to think maybe I could do this too?
So I loved to read as a child, and then I kind of lost my love for reading in high school and in college. And I swear it's because of having to take like classic American literature classes and world literature. And then I was like, reading is boring.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until my mid-20s, my husband would wake up early in the morning and he would read, or he was my fiance at the time, would read. And I would be like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Because I couldn't turn on the TV because it would, obviously annoy him. And he's like, read a book. And I was like, I don't like reading. But then I actually started looking into like books that I knew I would like based on what I used to read when I was a child, like Lois Duncan books. So I started reading thrillers. And there was a lot of really great thrillers that made me think like, I want to be able to do this as well. And then there were bad thrillers that it was like, well, if this can be published, then maybe I can write a book and get published too. So it was a mix of great books and books I was not fond of.
Right. And sometimes, and that's just even like life. I often tell people if they're figuring out what they're going to do with their lives or something, sometimes just that process of elimination is as useful as locking into something that you love or excel at. Knowing I'm terrible at that or I can't stand that, cross it off the list as a bad experience can be just as productive.
Yes, I completely agree.
So I don't want to write a boring book like that lame one I just read by whoever, right? I'm going to write
Yeah,
something better that everybody's going to be buzzing about, and they're going to want to be in my TikToks.
exactly.
Which anyway, the book is so much fun, and I gotta say too, I was listening to the audio was so fantastic. Can you tell me what it is like as a novelist to hear the performances? A book like, I mean, this is like just you're plopping it into literally an audio movie. It is so, I mean, it's so well done.
Yeah, so with my contract with Blackstone, I had final approval on narrators.
Wow.
And when they sent me over the cast list, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're giving each point of view a narrator, which was like my dream for this story. And I was so thrilled. And then I got like the little snippets of each of them playing each character, and it was just perfectly cast, so well done. And I always like, if you're an audiobook reader, you have to listen to this one because Blackstone killed it with the narrators. They're all very talented.
Yeah, they really did. And I really, the first thing I thought too, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned having stepped away from reading and not finding what was thrilling to you for a while, is that's the kind of audiobook that could really get somebody who isn't a regular reader into books again. Because it's just that good. I mean, it's why wouldn't you want to be listening to that while you're doing other things rather than you watching a show or whatever. So it was just so much fun. So congratulations. I cannot imagine how thrilling the whole experience must be. And then now you're actually able to get out in the real world and travel and have fun meeting your readers.
Yes, it's been amazing. I also had like some readers be like, oh, I was listening to the audiobook and I worked out an extra half hour so I could finish it. And I was like, I should add that as a disclaimer to the book. Will make you burn more calories.
Yes, exactly. This is a weight loss tool. It's perfect. Well, Jeneva, thank you so much. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to see you in person when you were in Scottsdale over at the Poison Pen, but I'm so happy to talk to you now, and really want to encourage everybody that this is a great escape, and full of surprises and full of some very, very memorable women. So One of Us is Dead is out now. Jeneva Rose, congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. It is time now for a moment with Margaret. My friend Margaret, you are just back from a concert festival. Was there a lot of reading going on at this Stagecoach event?
I read a lot of signs. I read a lot of set lists.
Okay.
A lot of times for those sets. Did not read one lick of a book.
Probably not even like the mornings after or on the way there.
No.
No.
No,
Well,
that's a different thing for another time.
Okay, so happy belated birthday to you, and welcome back. Glad you had a big adventure. We are talking today, the podcast listeners just hearing an interview with Jeneva Rose, the novelist who wrote One of Us is Dead, and her previous book. So this is the first time that I had read her, and it is deliciously campy and just the best way. And I hope she didn't take it the wrong way. I wasn't sure. I don't think that authors necessarily want their books compared to TV shows, but it made me think immediately of like the first time when Desperate Housewives first was on. Desperate Housewives and Devious Maids, like over the top and fabulous and rich and gorgeous and so bitchy and just all of that stuff, and so many surprises and so much weird stuff going on. It was really fun.
Like when Gossip Girl started. The real Gossip Girl, not this reboot nonsense.
Correct.
But that it's the same thing. It was very much this like over the top idea of teens in New York, but it was like delicious and you couldn't stop. And I certainly couldn't. So
So this is one of those books that goes, woman to woman to woman. Each chapter, whatever, is from a different woman's perspective. And also, so if anybody's listening and is interested in this kind of thing, it's just a perfect like beach read, like going to whatever. It's fun. I think it'll keep you. And she mentions this, that people have said her books will keep them on the treadmill or walking longer, exercising more. So she was saying like now I can say like this book will help you burn more calories because you totally you totally need to know what's going on. And if you enjoy audiobooks, they have a full cast. So each woman is narrated by a different actress and it is really good. But I wanted to talk to you about how you are always not I'm not going to say always, but looking at TikTok and you're much more aware of who are the big book talkers and all of that. And she really had a big successful, space on TikTok that I think really made, helped her career and helped people find these books.
Yeah. It's interesting because she had a similar situation with her book prior to this one, that our friend Jennifer Milliken did, just telling the plot of the story through the perspective of the character as if it's happening in their real life. And but for her it worked out a little differently than like Jennifer Milliken's books tend to be more romance, so you don't have to be upset if something not so great happens, but
it's more complicated if it's somebody who is accused of murdering the mistress and they're like, why are you out of jail on his all over social media?
Yeah. And it's interesting because, BookTok gets into different categories of life, right? So you have the authors who are doing these character developments, speaking as if they are the characters or having friends or family doing that. You also have reviewers who are just telling you what books they're reading, what books other people are reading, and then, giving their input on those. And so my little list here is kind of a little bit of everything.
Okay.
So you've heard me talk about Kirsten Moglen before.
Yes.
This is how I discovered her. Same, was her husband was acting as one of her characters in a book called The Arrangement.
Okay.
So read that book, loved it. Then, here come NetGalleys of the audiobooks of many of her others, including so this was The Arrangement. This was the I forget what the second book is, but same characters. And then she had other books that I've recommended here, Widow Falls, and The Reunion. I have a couple others that I have ready to go, but she used TikTok. She used her husband to do the same thing where it's like, hey, we have this arrangement in our marriage, but oops, something happened. These people might be coming after us. So you got really hooked, like, oh my gosh, they have this crazy story. And then, oh, no, just kidding.
So, she's a fiction writer. I forgot.
And I mean, it really worked on me. And I tend to like on BookTok, I go, meh, because for the most
marketing.
Oh yeah. And for the most part, like it's either not my genre or I've read it before, or I've like everyone's obsessed with whatever book. And that's what The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood. That's one that is all over BookTok.
Yeah.
Everywhere. I'm telling you, not as thrilled about it as everybody else.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. In fact, that is one that I really slowed down and like halfway through kind of put it down and picked up other books because it was just so outlandish to me that it was really hard to get into it. Okay. Like I think of other science romance, like Christina Lauren's Soulmate Equation. Which was like so believable. And it's something that like, it isn't likely going to happen, meeting your soulmate match based on like DNA results and all of that. That's not a likely thing, but it's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Where The Love Hypothesis
was a no.
Well, it's a grad student who like, her best friend is in love with a guy she went on a couple dates with. And so she's trying to make her friend understand that, no, you can date him. I don't have any claim to him. So in order to do that, she sees her best friend walking down the hallway and she just kisses a random guy. Oops. Oopsies. It's a professor. And then they like enter an exchange of, they actually want me to look like I'm settling down. And oh, you are going to help me, fake out my best friend. And I'm like, this would never happen. And
Because good friendships are always built on a mountain of lies.
also, making out with the professor who didn't just immediately put a hand against you and was like, wait a minute.
Frowned upon.
So it was very hard for me to just trudge through it. But a lot of people loved it.
Yeah.
But I stumbled across a BookTok today that was like, this is overhyped. I said, thank you. Does it mean I don't want to read the second book that is coming out very soon? No, because I can't help myself, but it's out there. And then, of course, you've heard me talk about the friend zone and Abby Jimenez. That's a whole other TikTok thing, very much like Colleen Hoover, who we've been talking about forever. But because they have their own social media presence, them as authors, not doing character developments, I was interested in their books because of them. And so I keep stumbling on other authors who kind of are doing the same thing, where they're just kind of really involving people in their day-to-day lives with social media, and it just makes it more interesting.
Well, yeah. And then, I mean, just the magic that happened kind of for Colleen Hoover, which she was like, I wasn't doing videos. So people are asking me like how to catch fire on social media. And she's like, it was just my readers. Like it was happened to be the people who are passionately in love with her books, happened to be really clever and great at social media during a time when everybody was all over social media. And so it's the most organic, most amazing way that you could blow up on social media, is like, actually, because people are seriously fanning out over your work.
Yeah. And it's just silliness of who they are. Like Abby Jimenez, very rarely do I see a TikTok or a social media post about her actual books, except, currently, because she has one that's out in the world now. But for the most part, I've talked about on the podcast here before, it's all about her dogs. Her dogs have this whole other following. It's kind of crazy. So BookTok out there.
It is funny because I went into Barnes & Noble the other day for the first time in a long time, and I think there were 3 displays of books. Saw it on BookTok, and it was, I mean, one of course was entirely Colleen Hoover. A lot are these sort of fantasy, and I don't know if they're kind of like a YA genre, fantasy, romance kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a whole space that I'm not dipping a toe into, but it
Lord
was
of Thorn and Roses, that whole thing.
Yes. So I'm like, is this vampire? Is it science fiction? It's vampire-ish, right? Or
I don't actually know, and I have 2 of those books in my house currently.
Well, you're younger than me. You're gonna have to just find out and then inform.
I'll just get into it.
But I thought, wow, how interesting. And here's also, a sort of big box retailer that years ago people thought would be extinct probably by now. And now there's tons of, there's a lot of people roaming around. They're responding to what's actually happening in the world by putting these displays out. And I thought it was, people are having their coffee and they're sitting on the floor and looking at books. And I was like, oh.
I think Barnes & Noble has done very well for themselves to adapt and pivot. And honestly, we use their guides for, they put all the book club books out there, and they've done displays for that. They've done one locally for your book club, for our book club here. And that was really great. But each store has their own personality and their own, they get to do what they want to do. And I applaud that of libraries as well. They adapt very much so and are very present on social media. And it's those kinds of things that will keep people thriving. And books made a big comeback in 2020.
Seriously.
And I think it's authors like Colleen Hoover that get people, really excited about reading again. I mean, I was at the pool this weekend, during Stagecoach, and I looked over and there was a girl reading a book, and I turned to my friends and I said, I bet I can guess what that book is from way over here, based on a sliver of the cover. Not even.
I thought you were going to do a thing like based on the style of bathing suit she was wearing. If you like this kind of bathing suit, read this book. That could be a new thing we have.
Based on based on a sliver of color. It was nothing else, just this much. The person that I decided this girl was, what she very much like, the wearing the bikini, her age, and where she was in reading this book. She wasn't in the water. She was laying out on the side. She was involved in it. She wasn't just like haphazardly.
Yeah.
It was a Colleen Hoover book. I bet it's Ugly Love. Sure enough, that's what it was. It was just like, you can identify other readers, and based on like, and that's a big BookTok.
Yeah.
One like massive is Ugly Love. That's a huge one. So, and I think that's constantly on the bestsellers paperback.
Oh,
November 9th too.
I just looked, and she has, I don't know, the majority of the top 10 of the paperbacks right now.
Dance with Us, probably Ugly Love, November 9.
Yes.
Verity, of course.
Verity. So yeah,
that's at least 4. I think 4, she has 5.
It's pretty wild though. And then the one that is always on there still as paperback is the Husbands of that we read for book club.
Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Yeah.
That's a huge BookTok one too. And I feel like we are years beyond that. Us as like Olivia's book club.
Yes.
Because we read that.
We read it at the start of the pandemic. We read that when we were switching, when everything was switching to virtual, and I literally did not know how to Zoom. And the book club was me sitting on the floor, talking to my iPad and asking people to respond to the comments.
Yeah, I was standing in my kitchen right here going, this is crazy. I'm pretty sure that was our first book club discussion, virtual.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, but that luckily was such a great book. And and I mean, I get it. It's a great book. I'm glad everybody's reading it, but I mean, it's really wild how some things just
I still think Malibu Rising is better, but that's just
I totally disagree. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And even I actually loved
Daisy Jones
much more too than Malibu Rising. Daisy Jones made me weep. I don't know if it was just timing. At the end, I cried really hard, and I don't know that was even like emotionally appropriate for the end of the book. But I was reading it on a Mother's Day, and I don't know why. But it was. I really loved that book. I thought it was super beautiful. Okay, so thank you, Margaret. We have had a book talk.
Yeah.
Okay, TALK.
Yeah. I like it.
Because you mentioned Soulmate Equation, let me give a little teaser if anybody is looking forward to next week. We've got the dynamic duo that is Christina Lauren next week talking about something wilder, and talked a little bit about Soulmate Equation, and I found out that one of them is a PhD. So no wonder the science was pretty believable.
Also, one of my best friend, who I recommended this book to, said, "Oh yeah, that Indian food restaurant in Soulmate Equation that they go to, that's where we get our Indian food. I've eaten there. Didn't even think about it. It's a real place."
Really?
So, yeah, I was like very thrilled to hear that, because it was great. It was really great.
Interesting. I love it.
I'm excited to hear from them.
Yeah, they're very cool. So it has been another great moment with Margaret. So Margaret, are you in the middle of reading something right now, or you wanna hold on that?
I am in the middle of reading 2 books. Would you like me to tell you what they are? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. If I can open my phone quickly.
Oh, she can't remember. I'm thinking.
I just want to make sure I get the authors and the names correct.
Mm-hmm.
Well, duh. I'm in the middle of the Santa suit. I know that's
Mary
so
Kay
weird.
Andrews?
Yes. So like I have the hardcover book. I never got around. It kind of, came down the pipeline in a very tough time in my life. And I just didn't get around to it. It was available on audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a 5-hour audiobook. And you know me, I listen at double the speed. And I'm halfway through it, and I love it.
It's so cute.
There's so many rom-coms out there that are like so hokey. And sure, this has got a little hokiness, but the writing is so cute.
Yes.
And it's so sweet. Like I am not having any problems with it so far.
I
And
totally
then,
agree. I mean, with the exception of that, she literally meets the hot dude in the first second in the town, which is a
yeah,
great
that's a
setup. I mean,
little,
that's like, wow, she's lucky. But she's such a great protagonist and she's smart and just has like got it together. And there was nothing annoying about this character. And so you are
yeah.
absolutely rooting for her and you know she's going to be great regardless of what happens. And so I really enjoyed that. Smart thing to read in like when it's about 100 degrees out.
Yeah, it's feeling good, and it's lighting up my drive to and from work right now. And then, oh, see, this is why I had to look it up. Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance by Allison
Oh,
Escott.
is it good? I have this queued up. It
So
sounds
far, I'm
very
really
intriguing.
liking it. It took
Ah,
it took about what 20% of the way. Like, it's very much a conversation, or a girl kind of talking about the relationship with her sister. And then
okay.
about 15-20% of the way in, something happens. I'm like, oh,
Oh.
oh, okay. Well, and
Oh.
just the way it's brought up is very like calm. Maybe not calm, but just like, and then this happened. I'm like,
Oh, I
oh,
like it. I like that style.
okay. Really into it. Love a good cover. It's a great cover. If I can show it very quickly. Oh no, of course
Oh,
I did that. Forget it. You'll see
oh
it
yeah.
another time.
I'm interested in that one. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Margaret, love seeing your face again. Thank you so much.
Of
Moment with Margaret. Everybody
course.
keep on reading. At least where we live in Arizona, it's getting hot. So it's time to crank the AC and like stay inside. Don't go to any wild concerts. If you do, take a book with you. People will not make fun of you if you're reading in the middle of a crowd. That's what I hear anyway.
Mm.
Until next time, bye. Thanks for listening to Olivia's Book Club, the podcast. I'm your host, Olivia Fierro. Our producer is Margaret Stewart. Our editor is Nick Sanchez. You can send us an email with your thoughts or your book recommendations. Olivia's Book Club at azfamily.com is the address. And you can check out Olivia's Book Club on Facebook or find us on Instagram. Hello, Bookstagrammers, at olivias.bookclub. And Margaret is at Overbooked and Overdue. Make sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast and tell your friends. You can find us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Amazon Music.